Hey, so this is Greg Eifler, your EdTech coach for the Northwest community, and I'd like to talk about a search engine called Wolfram Alpha that can be used for a lot of STEM activities, but just for research in general. The reason I wanted to show you this is just because it can be really useful for a lot of math and science. It can be a double-edged sword in the fact that you can actually have it solve some problems automatically for you. So in that sense, you want to use it kind of judiciously, because you don't want to take away the cognitive demand of problems just so students can show you a solution. They should be able to show you steps as well. So, for example, we've got a bunch of different examples for algebra that you can use. If you're going to look at the example for a system of equations, you can type in the system of equations. It gives you a solution automatically. It graphs the two lines since this is a linear system, etc. Would you want students to use this in class or on a test? Absolutely not. If it's something where you're asking them to show step-by-step solutions, obviously they have a button here for the step-by-step, but that's only available if in some cases you have a paid subscription. So it does give you just kind of a preview, but you'd have to go pro for you to get all those bells and whistles. However, I would probably use this for challenge problems, something where students can look up advice online at home for homework, that sort of thing, especially since our current resources usually are outside of what students' parents have experienced before. So not that the math necessarily is a lot different, but the approach is different, so it could be difficult for students to get help at home. But one nice thing that you can do with Wolfram Alpha is especially for comparisons. So let's say for a large number, I want to know the volume of the Titanic. And so Wolfram Alpha gives us quite a bit of information here. A lot of it may be unintelligible until you get down to some of these comparisons, and that's where I think this will be handy for a lot of research outside of STEM, but especially within the STEM classes. We can see that the Titanic volume is basically a quarter of the volume of oil that can be carried by the world's largest supertanker. It's about 70% of the volume of the Hindenburg Zeppelin. That could be a good point to talk about for students in a history class. Compares to the volume of a sphere, etc. So making comparisons within Wolfram Alpha, actually, this is one way for students to comprehend, put large numbers in context, because once you have a large number, usually the large number isn't intelligible until you make it practical in some concrete sense. Like, how do you compare it? You can even compare, say, presidential candidates. Let's do Michael Bloomberg, if I can spell Michael appropriately, and Donald Trump. Again, let's try and stay apolitical. This is just for the purposes of comparison. So literally, it gives you kind of a grid and puts two people next to each other, and you can do this for corporations as well if you wanted to compare Google to Apple, that sort of thing, and you can see just a wealth of information on both of them, even down to their current net worth, which is kind of interesting, but also gives you even the Wikipedia page hits history for both of these guys, and you can kind of see that Donald Trump has a lot more web hits right now, but of course Bloomberg just got in the race, so maybe that will even out a little bit coming up. So anyway, that's my quick spiel for using Wolfram Alpha in your classroom, and hopefully you find it useful.